we're discussing sort of the things you need to have with you when swimming. So Susan, if you want to show us again the bags that we have.
Definitely. So a bit of show and tell here. This would be a good bag if you want to carry your mobile phone with you. It's waterproof. It's got windows so that if you want to take some souvenir pictures or videos, you're all set for that. A nice cord for around your neck. If you have other valuables like money, keys, maybe a bit of sunscreen, a pouch like this that goes around the waist is handy, and it's got a triple zip lock.
I was just about to say, this looks like a Ziploc bag. So how effective are these two? Do you kind of use them on your own, or do you put them into like a bigger waterproof bag?
These are both quite good on their own. I've used them solo. I do have the feeling they're a couple of years old now that they're leaking a little bit. I see a bit of a tear on one. So you are probably better off to have a maxi sized bag.
Here's a much bigger one.
And that's actually Taylor's.
Yes, this one's mine. And it has the bear on it.
The cantonal flag of Bern.
And I see people, so people put their stuff in there and then, you know, roll it and then clip it. And then I see people using these sometimes as like a little flotation device to kind of hold or hug as you're kind of floating down the river.
Which I would just say, you know, that's fine. If you're a good and confident swimmer, that's okay to take a little break, but I wouldn't rely on that 100% because it won't necessarily hold you the whole time. And on top of that, then your stuff is more likely to get wet because water can get in if you're really leaning on it.
So we've already got an answer to the question on if you are an urban swimmer, but how many times did you go this summer?
So I went about 50. I actually do keep a little journal, and I should have double checked before this. I think it was 48 or 49 this year. That's the Ara. I was in the Rhine also once.
Okay.
Yeah. But whether that's typical or not, I think I'm a little bit obsessed.
Yeah, a little bit obsessed?
Yeah, because I get sort of fidgety if it's a really nice day and I haven't been able to get into the water yet.
So is that sort of like a nice end of the day thing for you to go jump in the river?
Yes, very much so. It just, not quite a baptism, but just a way of clearing your thoughts and getting refreshed and resetting for the next day.
Okay, so you've kind of touched on this question already. What do you like about it? Is there anything else that's really great about urban swimming, especially in Bern?
Well, you don't really need much. I mean, we did show these bags, but in theory, of course, you wouldn't need them if you have somewhere that you could lock up your stuff. And most cities, whether you're maybe in, say, Zurich, they've got the Limmat River. You could there also get some sort of a little locker to put your things in, or just don't take much with you.
Okay.
And it's that chance to get refreshed and the novelty factor, really.
Nice. So you mentioned Bern and you mentioned Basel, but where are some of the other places in Switzerland that urban swimming is popular?
I mean, we've just been talking about rivers so far, and I think that's what people particularly associate urban swimming with, is a river, but also a lake. Zurich's got a lot of what they call badis, so these bathing places, and also Lucerne, and some of them, they almost look a little bit like a wooden lobster trap, which I suppose that doesn't sound very inviting, but what I mean is they're on stilts in the water. So there's this pavilion where you can then, there'll be changing cabins and you pay a little admission to lock up your stuff. And then you can just quite easily get in and out of the water without maybe having to go over rocks or through reeds or something like that.
Okay. Have Swiss rivers and lakes always been safe to swim in?
No. I think in a lot of parts of the world, and also in Switzerland, let's say in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was quite a problem with pollution. And as recently as 1986, there was a really bad incident in Basel along the Rhine. There was a fire in this plant that was storing chemicals used in agriculture. And when they were putting the fire out, all this material got into the river. So it turned red and a lot of fish died. And so it took years to get it clean again. But now, I'd say the Swiss waterways have a clean bill of health.
So there are some special swimming events in Switzerland. Can you tell us about some of those?
Yes. Now, if you really like cold water, you might want to tune in around Christmas time. There are these swims in Geneva where people will cross the lake and put on Santa hats and even push these sort of floating packages around.
Okay.
You look.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical about that, but.
Yeah, I think that you have to be pretty tough, but there are certainly people who swim year round.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're going to get on year-round swimming in a little while. But next, I want to ask you, you recently made a podcast about urban swimming in Boston with Renetta Von Charner. So who is she, and how did this podcast come about?
Okay, well, Renata von Scharner is a Swiss woman who moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts in the 70s, and she's an architect. And something that she did there was to found the Charles River Conservancy. And so Boston's Charles River, like many rivers, it was also quite challenged. It was also very dirty in the 50s and 60s. But people like Renata and others said, we'd like to get this river cleaned up and make it more usable, and not just the river itself, but the parklands around it. So I'm originally from Boston, and I heard about this project and also the idea that they want to get people swimming in the Charles River. And so far, it's only been allowed once a year. They'll have a special event. And so I really wanted to talk to this woman, and because she's originally from the Basel area, she was coming back on a summer vacation, and I was able to meet her at the Rhine.
Some of our viewers may be familiar that there is a song about the Charles River in Boston, and part of the song goes, "Love that dirty water." So how safe is the Charles River to swim in at this point?
It's usually very good. They test the water regularly. The main thing that could be a problem is because some of the pipes for sewage are a bit older. So if there's a big rainstorm, that can contaminate the water enough. But the water itself is good. The problem is, though, there are a lot of sediments on the bottom. And so that's why it's a bit of a special case. If people want to swim, they shouldn't try to just walk in because their feet will disturb the sediments. Mm-hmm. And then these toxins will get into the water. Mm-hmm. So the idea there is to come up with a swim park that has wooden boards around an area with a fake bottom. I mean, it'll be the actual river water, mm-hmm. but people won't be able to disturb the sediments on the bottom.
Okay. So did you go swimming in the Charles River?
I've never been.
You've never been?
And I would love to, but I haven't had the opportunity. Okay. I'm going to have to wait until they build that swim park, I think.
Do you know when that will be built?
Well, Renata's hoping in the next couple of years. They do have plans that are drawn up. They're not 100% done, and mm-hmm. there still needs to be permission. And the concern about water safety, always testing it and making sure it's okay, and having enough trained lifeguards.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So for our last pre-planned question, is urban swimming popular year-round?
That depends on who you ask. Mm-hmm. And there are people in Switzerland who go year-round, and I would like to join those people. I know folks who would say absolutely you go in now. And right, I checked the temperature. It's 16 degrees Celsius. That's about 60 Fahrenheit.
That's kind
of my limit so far. I've only been in maybe a little bit under that. Mm-hmm. And actually today, so the water is just about the same temperature as the air.
Okay.
So I guess it wouldn't be that much of a shock.
So we're going to move into seeing if we have some questions from our viewers. But first, we had a question submitted on Facebook by Sam Stagmorgan, and he says, really a summer subject in October, although as we've just discussed, it can be year-round. He wants to know how many people are expected to participate in the Onion Festival swim in the river this year.
So he knows Bern, obviously, and
mm-hmm.
it's Onion Festival, which takes place in November. So only next month. It's not outrageous. But as for statistics, I couldn't say. I could imagine that people making the pilgrimage to Bern anyway for the Onion Festival might say, right, this is my opportunity for a fall swim.
What about you? Have you ever done the Onion Festival swim?
As far as I've been to the Onion Festival, but as far as I know, there's not a real swim.
Would you do it?
Would I do it?
Yeah.
I'd consider it.
You'd consider it?
It depends on the weather on the day.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if we have some questions. Here we go. So what is the minimum water temperature for you to get in the water, and how do you find it? How do you find out?
How do you find out? Oh, well, there's a very good app called Ara Guru, and they give not just the temperature, but they actually also give a little sort of suggestions to how, is it just for tough people, or they'll say it's perfect. A couple of weeks ago, they were calling it the longest summer ever. And usually when it's, say, 20 degrees Celsius, that's when they really say, everybody get in. And I think that once it hits 20, then you're going to see all of Burnham there. But when it drops under 20, and suddenly you say, where are the people? Where is everyone?
So it sounds like it can get quite crowded when the weather's nice.
Oh, yes. And not just with people, but with boats or people on these inflatables, not just boats, but say, I've heard there are people who have these blow-up unicorns.
I have a blow-up unicorn, yes, and I have rafted from Tune to Burn on the blow-up unicorn.
Now, how long did that take you?
I think it took like maybe 3.5, 4 hours, but we were just kind of going with the current. We weren't really in a rush.
And so were you the only one on such a thing, or were you with other, was there a giraffe maybe and a flamingo?
No, I was on the unicorn by myself, but I was attached to an inflatable boat with my friends in it. So I wasn't just by myself on the unicorn. I wouldn't recommend that. It's better to be with people with a boat with paddles so you can get, back in the boat if you need to, which I did need to do at one point when the water's a little bit rougher. I jumped back into the boat, but
Now, that's something I've not had that experience yet, boating from Tune.
Oh, it's really fun. It's really fun. I almost like it more than swimming.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay, so next question is, are you swimming in the winter as well, which you kind of touched on?
I touched on, and actually we had a good article here on Swiss Info about a Russian woman who goes in the middle of winter. And there are a number of people who will swim in the middle of winter. Also, there's somebody here at Swiss Info, a man in the IT department, and he's been encouraging me to join, or anybody who would like to join this club.
Do you think you'll take him up on that?
I'm starting to feel kind of obliged as we talk about this here today. And I do have the urge. I mean, as it started to get colder, I haven't been swimming in about 10 days now, so I'm feeling a bit jumpy and bereft. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Oh, someone asked where we can find the Charles River in Switzerland. Well, actually, we were talking about the river in Boston.
Yes, that's in Boston and Cambridge. But that we came up with that because we were talking about a woman that I interviewed for a podcast, a Swiss woman who's been living in Massachusetts for about 40 years now.
Okay. So we have, I think that is the last of our questions. Do you have any last comments to make about urban swimming? I think we had a question from a colleague of ours about the difference between urban swimming and
wild
swimming. Yeah. What's the difference between those two things?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that, and I get the sense that people say wild swimming because they may want to feel sort of wild. They're out in the wild doing something. But I suppose it's probably more to do with the fact that urban swimming, there are some facilities, whether it's those steps and the railings or changing cabins, which as the weather gets cooler, you would much more appreciate if you can get back into dry clothes modestly. But yeah, wild swimming, there'd be just no facilities. You'd get to find your way in over the rocks.
I have a final question for you. So we've mostly talked about river swimming. Do you lake swim at all?
Yeah, I like lakes, ponds, really. I mean, any body of water. It just kind of depends on what is the nearest. I think on a hot day, you maybe don't want to travel too far to access some water. So that's, I think that's also why people appreciate urban swimming so much. If you live in a city where it's possible, then it makes it really easy. You're not sitting on in a hot vehicle trying to get somewhere.
That's true. That's a good point. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us. I will post the link to the podcast in the comments section in case anyone wants to listen to that. And I will also post some more of our articles about urban swimming and swimming in Switzerland. So thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.